let me start with talking about you-know-who. The man of the hour. Number 2. What have I done? How could I have missed this? How could I have overlooked this? You guys tell me, was I too short-sighted? Was I blinded by the fact that I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh? Was Mason the guy all along? Maybe we shouldn't be shocked with what we witnessed out there on Saturday, though, because I have a theory. I thought about this more and more. Should we really be surprised? Because the more you think about it, the more you realize Mason is the only quarterback in the Steelers quarterback room with a direct lineage to 7, the greatest quarterback in Steelers franchise history. So Mason was an apprentice to the Jedi Master. He received the tutelage of the Steeler way. He was there. He was there with 7, the Killer Bees, A.B., Bell, Pouncey, all those guys. He's been through the adversity, knows what it means to be a Steeler. From those guys, he inherited it from them. Those guys, right? Those guys we would consider, based off Troy Polamalu's definition, Steelers that could have played in any era. Does Mason Rudolph hold the secret? We've been looking for better quarterback play this whole time, the whole year. And recently, we went as far to say the Steelers organization has lost its way. We need to look ourselves in the mirror and truly reconsider some things, right? And I said the answer at the quarterback spot is KP8. It's KP8. I've been telling you guys, trust me. But the dude hasn't been able to stay healthy. And was it QB3 just sitting there all along, the third guy on our depth chart? Again, he's the only one with the direct connection to the greatest Steelers quarterback of all time. And going back to whenever Mason and Ben were in the same quarterback room together, people were tough on 7 for potentially not being the warmest to Mason whenever we first drafted him, potentially not being the best of mentors, right, during their time. People were critical of 7 for that. But maybe 7, in all of his wisdom, knew he needed to toughen up Mason for moments like this. It was all part of the teaching. It was all part of the training the whole time. How's Mason in December of 2023, 2 days before Christmas, how's Mason going to be able to go up against the division rival, the Cincinnati Bengals, with the team's backs up against the wall, playoff hopes on the line, Mason's career on the line? Basically, one game for his career. How's he going to be able to handle all that if he can't handle 7 being tough on him at times, right? And Mason did, in fact, show that he can deliver in all those type of circumstances. So 7's training was successful. It's just crazy to me, man. It's just crazy. Did I overlook it? Mason knows the Steeler way. He's been here through all that. He's faced adversity. I mean, not only has been here for the adversity that this team has gone through over the last 4 or 5 years, but also personally, the Myles Garrett helmet hit, him getting drilled by Earl Thomas in that Ravens game, getting knocked out, concussed, benched for a duck, coming back in, getting hurt, 7 coming back, Mason's relegated back to the bench, and then all of a sudden we sign Mitch Trubisky after 7 retires. And then we draft Kenny Pickett. And then Mason's at the bottom of the depth chart for the last season, 2 seasons almost. And now he's sitting here, 2 games left. Well, 3 games left, if you want to include the Bengals game. He's QB1. Although no official announcement has been made by Mike Tomlin, I'm here to tell you today, based off what I witnessed on Saturday, Mason Rudolph needs to be QB1 for the rest of 2023, or at least next week. at least next week. Are you guys with me on that? We all saw the same thing. I don't think there's a debate right now. I don't think there's a case for Kenny Pickett. And you guys know, I'm a Kenny Pickett guy. But dude hasn't been healthy. We haven't seen the dude in a month. This last game against the Bengals, we were up 24-0 at halftime. We were up 24-0. Mason Rudolph had the most complete game out of any Steelers quarterback this whole year. And you could probably argue the last 2 years. Definitely the last 2 years. The most complete game. 290, 2 touchdowns. And he put up those stats basically like in the third quarter. He had a quarter and a half of more stats we could have put up, but the game was over. The game was already over. And when's the last time we've seen that from this Steeler team? Where the game's over in the third quarter. We're up 2-3 scores. We haven't seen that all year, right? We haven't won by double digits all year. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I just remember every game going down to the wire. And then going back to last year, I think it was the Browns game. The Browns game, week 18. We won 28-14. But I think the majority of those ones, one-score games, right? We got red zone scores with Mason out there. Yeah, we were able to move the ball. And we've been able to move the ball at times this year, right? Titans game, I remember, on Thursday Night Football. Even the last Cincy game that we played, the first Cincy game, rather, on the road. We moved the ball all over the place. First game since we fired Matt Canada. First game with 400 yards of total offense, right? We couldn't punch it in the end. We only had 16 points. That one came down to like we only won 16-10. You also had the deep throws. It wasn't the Pickett to Pickens connection, but rather the Rudolph to Pickens connection. Or, as I said on Saturday, if you know, the Pickens to Rudolph connection. Like Mason took shots. He was the perfect blend of what you're looking for in a quarterback. No joke. He was the combination of Pickett by taking care of the ball, but then also the aggressiveness that Mitch has put on display. But it was the combo of both. Mason was able to pick his shots in the right spot, but also never put the ball in harm's way, ever, throughout the whole course of that game. And it's been a while since we've seen it like that. It's been a while to get those explosive type of plays out there. And it felt like it was pretty consistent. We were taking deep shots, a couple times a quarter. And like the one, I was with my buddy at the game. There was the one where it was a blatant pass interference on Calvin Austin. Blatant pass interference. But man, when's the last time we've seen, all right, one-on-one? I'm gonna throw it up and just see if we can get the pass interference. You know what I mean? It's been a minute. That's some type of stuff that we've saw way back with 7, right? And is it a coincidence? You got Mason Rudolph doing that type of stuff in his first game starting since, the Lions back in 2021, week 10, 2021. Is it a coincidence? Because Mason had that direct lineage. He got to witness the type of stuff 7 was doing week in and week out. So he learned from that a little bit. Took some of that 7 knowledge, right? At least that's what I saw in that Cincy game. And then just the fact he was in command, man. Like he was out there and confident, and it felt like it was his team. In command. In control. Like there was just no doubt, right? There was no doubt. He didn't look skittish. He didn't look like he hasn't been there before. So, man, I think you got to go with Mason. I think you do. I still think Kenny and Saul, this isn't an indictment on him or anything. This isn't a shot at him. My biggest knock on Kenny is he just can't stay healthy. He can't. So, like, everything about his career with the Steelers so far just feels incomplete. I had a conversation with my brother after the game. And he mentioned multiple times, like, you mean to tell me Kenny couldn't make some of those throws Mason was making? And I'm with him. I do think Kenny is capable. I do. But it just seems up to this point with Kenny, what we keep talking about is would'ves, could'ves, and should'ves. How many times did I say during that 3-game losing streak, oh, if we had Kenny, if Kenny didn't get hurt in the Cardinals game, if Kenny was there in the Patriots game, if Kenny was there in the Colts game, we would have won. We'd have a much better record. We might be fighting for the division. We might be fighting for the 1 seed. We got to see what Mason did. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, Kenny did have a good game against Cincy as well, going back those 4 weeks. Kenny was making really, really good throws, deep throws. Offense was opened up. That was a month ago, bro. That was a month ago. So you mean to tell me you're willing to put Kenny out there, who's coming off of this ankle injury, over what we just saw last week, and that was the most complete game out of any quarterback on the Steelers roster the whole season, over the last 2 seasons, the most complete game. And this isn't about like, oh, does that mean we've lost faith in Kenny? He can't be the guy for 2024. No, this is more about, I want to win games this year. I want to make the playoffs this year. That's it. We have 2 games left. We're not talking about this being the 3rd or 4th game of the season, and we have a lot more season left. No, we got 2 games left. We're 8-7. We got to win out, and we need some help. I think Mason gives us the best shot. You got to ride the hot hand, man. You got to ride the hot hand. I actually think if Tomlin goes with Kenny, this would be one of, his top 3 worst decisions this year. Number 1's still, I think, punting on that potential 57-yard field goal against the Colts. But if he wants to go with Kenny and Seattle over Mason, this would be in the top 3. I don't know if it'd be 2, but it'd be top 3. I don't know if there's another bad Tomlin decision I'm missing here. But yeah, I think you got to go with Mason, dude. He looked good out there, man. He looked really good. And the thing with Kenny is he hasn't proven to be a franchise guy up to this point. I still think he could. I think he's got all that in him. But he hasn't proven to be a guy like Ben or a guy like Joe Burrow or a guy like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. He hasn't proven to be those type of guys yet, where no matter what, you get hurt, your job's there whenever you come back. I said how many times whenever Mitch first got the start against the Patriots, we knew Kenny was going to be out for multiple weeks. I said, Kenny opened the door for Mitch. If Mitch were to ball out over these next 2 or 3 games, we go on a winning streak, it's Mitch's job for the rest of the season. Mitch squandered it. So all of a sudden, Kenny can't come back against the Bengals here. The door is now open for Mason. Next guy up. And Mason capitalized. 290, 2 touchdowns, and basically 3 quarters. Like if we wanted to run it up, dude probably could have had like 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. If we really wanted to do that, if we really wanted to. And you know what? Even off of those 290 and 2 touchdowns and how the second half of the game played out, like Mason even missed a throw or 2 there. Like there was one to Damontae. That could have been 330, right? 330 and probably a touchdown. Damontae could have walked in to the end zone. So like 290, 2 touchdowns. We basically ran the game out for a quarter and a half, and we left some out there. It seems like a no-brainer to me. It seems like a no-brainer. You got to go with 2. You got to go with 2. I guess you see how these games play out with Mason. So I'll say this. I'll go Mason rest of the season, but like he gets next game. We'll just say that. He gets next game. Because if things don't look good, then yeah, maybe you have conversations mid-game at halftime or going into the Ravens game of like, all right, do we want to go Mason again or do you want to go Kenny? Like if we lose next week, the season's probably over. Let's just be real. I think Mason's given himself a chance, though, to keep the season alive. I just feel like you got to talk about next year for next year. What gives us the best chance right now? And that's riding the hot hand. That's riding 2. That's going with 2. How you guys feeling, though? How you guys feeling? Merry Christmas again, though. Merry Christmas. What's the word with you guys? Good Christmas for the Steelers. Good Christmas for you guys. You guys get anything good? But how you guys feeling about Mason versus Kenny? I will put up a poll, too. how do I want to phrase this? Is Mason QB1? We'll just say that. Is Mason QB1? It's the headline of the show. It's the bottom caption that you guys see here. Is Mason QB1? Yes, no. Pretty simple. Black and Gold 86 believes Mason deserves the shot. Yep. MT has to go. I got some more things to say about this game. I know the quarterback talk is going to be the main subject of conversation, but there's more to talk about with this game. And just going off this guy's username, that reminded me, like, Mike Tomlin, that was pretty solid coaching job, no, from him. We're down to moving cornerbacks to safeties. I mean, Patrick Peterson's playing safety out there. We got Miles Jack caught up from the practice squad. Eric Rowe caught up from the practice squad. Defense is hurt. That was the one thing going into this game. I was like, you know what? The offense shouldn't get much worse, right? Let's see what happens with Mason. It's just been so steady, not in a good way, like the offense. It's just been so blah. It's been so mediocre the whole season. I was like, I'm more concerned about the defense going forward. I'm more concerned about the defense heading into this game because at least the defense, when we've been healthy, we've been able to keep our team in games. But then you saw against the Colts, we were absolutely decimated and looked like we didn't even know how to play professional football. Tomlin got him prepared, right? You know, we're up 24-0 first half. The only really bad play was that T. Higgins slant that was taken to the house. So for all the people that are talking about firing Tomlin, you get games like that, completely backs up against the wall. Not a lot of people believe in your team anymore. They're questioning if the Steelers lost their way, if the organization's corrupt, and you have a game like that. And I don't want to hear it. Oh, it's against Jake Browning and the Bengals and T. Higgins. Steeler fans just last week were begging for Jake Browning to be our quarterback. They prefer Jake Browning over any quarterback that we've had on our roster. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't. People were talking up Jake Browning like he should get a contract or maybe get a chance to start around the league next year in 2024. I don't want to hear it. I don't. I know they're missing Jamar Chase. They still got guys. They still got Joe Mixon. They still got T. Higgins. They still got Tyler Boyd. We're hurt too. We're missing the best safety in the league. We're missing our starting strong safety in Damontae Kazee because of that Bush League suspension. Like, we were dealing with some big-time injuries. Coach T had those guys prepared. Now, again, if we want to talk about offensive changes going into 2024, we could talk about that all day. Like, what OC do we need to bring in? How much control does Tomlin need to delegate to the new offensive coordinator? Like, that is all up for discussion, 100%. But in terms of leading this team, I still think you give Tomlin another year. And there was that NBC Sports report that was saying Steelers might even be talking about giving him an extension. A lot of Steeler fans probably won't be happy about that. A lot of Steeler fans will. But this is why I even said back to whenever these fire Tomlin conversations were happening, you got to let the rest of the season play out. If we win these next two and then everything goes in our favor and we make the playoffs, maybe we go on a run. What are we talking about here? Firing Tomlin? Are you kidding me? MT has to go. Mediocre Mike should have had Mason in 2 weeks ago, and the players were stoked because they all knew Mason gave him the best shot. Yeah, players were playing for Mason. Like I said, he knows the Steeler way. He's been here. He's been here with those killer B teams. He got that knowledge from that era. Maybe it was him all along. Maybe it was. Maybe I was wrong. And if I was, I apologize greatly for that. Kevin GZ. So, Deke, if Mason wins out and plays well, what does that mean for our future? Do we stick with him and bring him back? You guys tell me. I feel like that's a legit combo. Absolutely. I think that's a legit combo. He Jr. says Pat P looks better at safety. At least that's what the film said. Yeah. I like him there. I mean, we've been moving him around all season. And he's been playing a lot better compared to like that first month. But we need him playing there now because we're just so decimated at the position. So we got to see Levi Wallace out there a little bit. Obviously, we talked Miles Jack. Michael Walker was out there for a minute. Mark Robinson's been struggling. That's unfortunate. We all had really high hopes for him. Eric Rowe, I mean, dude's making plays. We had dudes making plays. It's just frustrating to me. Like, why was Miles Jack and Eric Rowe not called up like 2-3 weeks ago? Were they that out of shape? You heard Miles Jack talking about what he did in retirement. He actually might have been that out of shape. He was like, yeah, I did Call of Duty, did pick up hoops at the local gym. He had like 2 or 3 other things like he kind of did on a daily basis. I was like, yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe he's a little bit out of football shape. But compared to what we were dealing with these last 2-3 weeks, I think a rusty Miles Jack still would have been better. And you guys are seeing that stat pop up on social media that Miles Jack in his first game as a Steeler this year in week 16, his first game, he has just as many tackles or more production than Devin Bush over in Seattle. Because he got a sack in that Bengals game too, right, Miles Jack? S. Williams 3636 says if Tomlin starts Pickett and goes out and plays horrible, the Steeler fan base would lose their mind. So I think if Pickett starts, here's my thing. I still believe in Pickett. I actually think Pickett would play fine. But does he give us what Mason just gave us last week against Cincy? I got to say, Mason gave us like an X factor, man. Mason gave us some splash. He did. I know he had the one slant beginning of the game. Pickens took to the house. That was a lot of Pickens. But he also had some really good deep balls to Pickens. That it was like, 40-plus air yards. Throwing balls on a dime. Like, he looked good, man. He looked good. He did everything we needed him to do and more. And he gave us that X factor. And he gave us that splash. Like, if he didn't give us the X factor and splash, we still get out of there with a win. But we're not sitting there up 24-0 at halftime and dominate the Bengals like we did. We haven't seen that in forever from this Steelers team. You got to go with them. Black and Gold 86 is still early here in California. Merry Christmas, Steeler Nation. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, when's this decision going to be made? Tomorrow, right? Like a press conference tomorrow? That's when we'll find out. What are you guys saying about Mason QB1? All right, it's saying 83% of you guys go with yes. 17% no. MT has to go. Shout out to you too for stopping through. Appreciate it. Appreciate the comments. He says, what's it going to take for you Tomlin lovers a decade without a playoff win? We'll see how this season plays out. And in terms of the season playing out, what have you guys seen in terms of what we need to get in? The most simple explanation I've seen, I should have made it a graphic to pop it up, but let me read this real quick. This is the most simple explanation I saw for what we need to get into the playoffs. We need to win out, obviously. And then we need 2 of 4 things to happen in the next 2 weeks. A loss from Jacksonville, Buffalo, the Colts, or Texans. So 2 of those 4 things need to happen. And the Colts and Texans play each other the last week. So that's 1 loss for either team. And then it just comes down to the Jaguars or Bills losing a game. That's it. Jaguars or Bills got to lose one of their last 2 games. It can be pretty much that simple. There might be some other stuff too with the Colts Texans, whereas like if either one of them lose next week, then we'd be in too, right? Like if the Colts have 2 losses or the Texans have 2 losses, then I think that gives us a spot no matter what. Bills would be in, Browns would be in for the wild card. Let's say the Bills went out, Browns, they have their spot locked up. Almost. Like they could lose out. Hopefully that happens. But if Bills went out, Browns went out, whatever, Jaguars win the AFC South, if the Colts or Texans lose, either one of them lose next week, and then that team has, actually, I don't know. That's too confusing. I'm already confusing myself right now. Basically, it's not far off from us getting in. It's not far off. We got to win, though. We got to win. We got Seattle on the road, and we got Baltimore on the road. 2 tough games. Jerry Ramos says, if Browns lose out and Steelers win out, Steelers in. Would Steelers get in over Browns? Or would Browns potentially still get in based off some of these AFC South teams? That would be incredible, though. If the Browns lose out and the Steelers went out and the Steelers get in, that would be absolutely incredible. Browns do have like somewhat of an easy schedule, though, right? Let me see real quick. Let me look this up. Who do they play? They play the Bengals, right? Bengals last game of the season. They got Jets next week. Revenge game. Joe Flacco revenge game. But hopefully it's more of a Jets revenge game against Joe Flacco. And the defense will ball out and get like 3 picks. That would be awesome, actually. That would be awesome. If that could somehow happen. Because it does seem like the Browns are locked into the playoffs right now, right? It truly does. But that would be such a Browns thing to do. The Steelers, in all of our negativity and just how we went on that 3-game losing streak, seems like the season's over. Somehow get in on, one of our like down years, right? Steelers get in over one of the Browns' best years that they've had over the last 20, 25 years. That would be incredible. Would love to see it. Max Breezy, yes, sir. He says, Deke ripped the tag off. He stuck with it. Yep, we got the Mason jersey. We're rocking with it. Rest of the season. Absolutely rocking with it. First series of the game, Mason to Pickens, over. Rip the tags off. It's a good decision. Ended up aging like fine wine. But all right, I don't know if I got anything more to say. I mean, good thing we didn't cut or trade Pickens, I guess. And 2 things can be true at the same time, right? Pickens' effort and what he was doing last week and even throughout the season with his body language, how he was playing football, wasn't good, right? But then he's also a talent, and when you get him the ball and good things happen, it's definitely a positive thing to have him on your team. Both things can be true. Oh, man. S. Williams 3636. Ben R has to be happy for Mason. I think the training worked out. I think the Jedi Master in 7 knew what he's doing and how to get Mason ready for these moments. Fish Momentum says, you already know what it is. You don't skip a beat on your takes, bro. Appreciate the support. Oh, the Browns play Jets Thursday night. Thursday night games get interesting. Okay. Short week. I like that. Tyler Minnick's in the house was good, man. Yeah, you're a little late. I'm about to log off here. Yeah, Pickens, career day, man. Career day for Pickens. Awesome. But all right. Hey, appreciate you guys stopping through. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the rest of the day with your friends and family, as will I. And then we will be awaiting what Tomlin has to say tomorrow, man, about the quarterback 1 situation. Didn't commit to it directly after the game. We'll see what he has to say in the press conference tomorrow. I think it's Mason. It's got to be Mason. I think it would be a bad decision to go with Kenny. Who would have thought I'd be saying that week 17 of 2023? Who would have thought we'd be here right now? But we are. So stay chilling. Merry Christmas. Peace out, guys.